good, my fellow fight fans and gambling addicts alike? I hope you're all enjoying the end of the year from whatever part of the map you live on. For those of you that aren't aware, I started my channel at the beginning of January this year, and aside from missing a video on a couple fight nights, I covered every fighter from the early prelims to the last fight of the night all year. And after watching 521 UFC fights this year, now looking back on all those cards, it felt fitting to make an end of the year video recapping the best moments that combat sports had to offer in 2023. So not just the UFC, even though that's primarily what I covered. Luckily for us, this year had a lot of memorable moments to look back on. So tonight for the i9ines 2023 MMA Awards, I'm going to be awarding 14 categories, with each one being revealed as the video goes on. With all that being said, let's get straight into the show. The first category of the night is a banger and personally one of my favorite, Rookie of the Year. And the nominees are Ikram Aliskerov, Diogo Lopez, Elves Brenner, and Bo Nickel. This is possibly the most stacked year for breakout fighters in the UFC in the last 5 years. All but one of these 4 fighters were undefeated in the octagon, with all of them competing at least 2 times. Elves Brenner and Diego Lopez were the only fighters of this group to have 3 fights on the year, and Brenner is the only fighter to go 3 for 3. And although if you've watched my channel, you'll know how I feel about Brenner's debut fight, he still, regardless of how I feel on paper, is 3-0. And this is his first year in the UFC. And he was given Guram Kutateled, sorry, didn't mean to butcher that, which is the most dangerous fighter any of these nominees competed with. So with all of this in mind, your winner in a tight race for Rookie of the Year is Elves Brenner. Congratulations to Brenner on a solid year in the UFC. Moving on to our second category of the night, Submission of the Year. And the nominees are Davy Grant's comeback inverted triangle with 15 seconds left over Rafael Assunção, Alexa Grasso's title-winning rear naked choke over Valentina Shevchenko, Muhammad Mokaev's escape from a wicked knee bar into his own neck crank, and finally Joanderson Brito's comeback from almost 2 rounds of ground control into a power guillotine over Jonathan Pierce. Each one of these submissions shares a similar theme, being the owner of the submission was losing the fight before they snatched victory with a slick choke. And on one hand, one must consider Grasso ending Valentina's monstrous win streak and how much of an underdog she was going into that bout. And on the other, Grasso wasn't even close to being finished, while Muhammad Mokaev was in a knee bar from hell and managed to survive and chase his own finish. If you like seeing different unorthodox submissions, Grant picked up an inverted triangle, and Brito latched in a power guillotine against a smothering grappler. I've been mulling over my decision for some time, but I think ultimately the grit and heart shown makes Muhammad Mokaev the winner of Submission of the Year. So congrats to Mokaev, and I hope your knee never bends that way again. The next category of the night is a hotly contested one every year in the sport, Card of the Year, and the nominees are UFC 284, UFC 285, UFC 287, and UFC 295. And there isn't much to say on this category this year, in all honesty though. I think the winner is cut and dry this time around. The name value, the big upset, explosive prospect debut, the return of the greatest fighter to ever compete. The winner of Card of the Year is without a doubt UFC 285. Go back and look at the fights on this card and all the finishes. It just truly had it all. So for these next 2 categories, we're going to be taking a look at my best and worst picks on the year, with the first being Best Call of the Year, and the nominees are Adesanya vs. Pereira 2, O'Malley vs. Sterling, Volkanovski vs. Makhachev 1, and Grasso vs. Shevchenko 1. Each one of these fights will stay in my memory for the next few years because they were moments I called almost perfectly beforehand. The only exception on the list is Volk vs. Islam 1 because I technically didn't predict the fight correctly, but at the time I was the only person on YouTube even picking Volkanovski to get it done, at least from what I saw. The O'Malley and Adesanya predictions were mint, the correct finishes, correct round, and both fights made me some coin. But nothing tops the feeling I had predicting exactly how Valentina Shevchenko would finally lose her title domination streak. The winner of Best Call of the Year goes to Shevchenko versus Grasso 1. And now we can look at the nominees for Worst Call of the Year. Aldana versus Nunes, Aliskerov versus Hawes, Lewis versus Spivak, and Elkins versus Brown. When it comes to Aliskerov's debut, I heavily underestimated what he could do and paid for it with an incorrect pick. And the same can be said for Spivak. I underestimated his ability, flat out. When it comes to the Aldana fight, I thought the magic would be recreated from the Shevchenko upset earlier in the year, and I don't think anything compares to me picking TJ Brown as my lock of the card, only for him to get bodied by Darren Elkins. So, without a doubt, the award for worst call of the year goes to Elkins versus Brown. Congratulations to Darren Elkins, just still getting it done at this old age, with all the damage he's taken in his career. Ridiculous. Now let's switch the tone back to pure violence for this next award and get straight to the nominees for Knockout of the Year, with the nominees being Josh Emmett's knockout over Bryce Mitchell, Israel Adesanya's knockout over Alex Pereira, Islam Makhachev's knockout over Volkanovski, and finally Tom Aspinall's knockout over Sergey Pavlovich. For strictly talking about how clean the knockout blow was, nothing tops Josh Emmett's nuclear overhand on Bryce Mitchell, but when you take into account the opponent being down multiple fights on your last chance to beat this guy, with your legacy hanging in the balance, everything coming down to the combinations being thrown on you against the cage in the middle of the second round, winner of the knockout of the year goes to Israel Adesanya, undoubtedly first KO over Alex Pereira, who in and of himself is a contender for fighter of the year, honestly. Congratulations to Adesanya for creating one of the close moments of the year. And just want to clarify, I'm saying Alex Pereira is in contention for fighter of the year, and Adesanya had a KO like that against a monster like that. It's truly one of the coolest moments when you really take into account all of the backstory and just everything like that. So yeah, congratulations. Watching fighters fight is ultimately what we're all here for, but sometimes it's just as fun to listen to them talk. The fighters in this category captured our attention right after a big win. Let's go to the nominees for post-fight interview of the year. Tom Aspinall at UFC 295, Israel Adesanya at UFC 287, Alejandro Pantoja at UFC 290, and Bryce Mitchell's post-fight interview from UFC Fight Night Gamrot vs. Fiziev. Each one of these post-fight speeches hit me in one way or another. Adesanya lit a fire under me to feel the same type of joy that he was feeling. Aspinall reminded me to appreciate my family and always give some glory back to them. Pantoja hit me with a soft spot because I share a similar upbringing to him. And the only man on the list that managed to stand out without being on a pay-per-view platform is Bryce Mitchell. And in my opinion, he spread the most important message of all. Evil runs this world, and we would all be better off coming back to God. From walking out with the Bible to spreading the word of God on the big stage, Bryce Mitchell is the winner of post-fight interview of the year. Congratulations. Again, it just really stood out that he was the only one not on a pay-per-view platform, and he still managed to just garner a lot of attention. It was a big moment for the year. Listening to fighters talk can certainly be entertaining, but what's even better is when they're chirping at each other. With that in mind, let's take a look at the nominees for Press Conference of the Year, Presser of the Year, UFC 292, UFC 293, the UFC Seasonal Press Conference, and UFC 296. Almost all of these press conferences led to rumblings in the MMA community directly after they took place, but only one of these press conferences led to a fight in the crowd, and that's the UFC Seasonal Presser featuring Strickland, DDP, Volkanovski, Topuria, Suga, and Cheeto. This presser has since led to a debate online about DDP's comments, and following the presser at UFC 296, Strickland and Dricus got into a fight in the crowd and had to be booted from the arena. For me, this press conference had the most real tension, so it's the winner for Presser of the Year. The pinnacle for almost all fighters alike is to become a world champion. To make it to the top in the UFC is regarded by all as one of the most difficult things to achieve in all of combat sports. These four fighters share the accomplishment of having become a UFC champion and serve as the nominees for Champion of the Year. Islam Makhachev, Leon Edwards, Alejandro Pantoja, and Alexander Volkanovski. Islam, Leon, and Alejandro all went 2-0 on the year, with Edwards and Makhachev adding 2 title defenses to their legacy. On paper, Alexander Volkanovski doesn't fit, as he went 1-2 on the year while being KO'd brutally. Volk started the year going up in weight to challenge Makhachev, narrowly losing a fight he was never given a chance in by fans and critics alike. He then went back down to his weight class, defended the belt dominantly against the number 1 contender, and ended the year coming back up to challenge Makhachev on short notice. Of all the UFC champions competing in 2023, Volkanovski's name stayed positively relevant all year, and for that, he's 2023's Champion of the Year. Congratulations, Alexander Volkanovski. Sometimes, as fans, we can completely count out a fighter after the first couple of minutes of a bout, or even before the bout starts. Each one of these fighters seem to be down for the count, only to come back and win emphatically. Let's get to the nominees for Comeback of the Year. Brenner versus Kutateladze, Vergara versus Lacerda, Grant versus Asuncao, and Highstand versus Batgarral. Personally, this one has been the hardest category to make a pick on because each one of these comebacks leaves you walking away like, hell yeah. But if I had to choose, the level of heart shown in CJ Vergara's win over Daniel Lacerda has to take the Comeback of the Year award. Congratulations to CJ Vergara on a memorable performance. And honestly, you rode your stock crazy this year. Congratulations, brother. At this point into the show, I'm sure you've realized that fight fans care more about just the fights themselves. The fighters tend to share wholesome moments from their lives, or even in the cage following performances. And that's exactly what we'll be taking a look at for this next category, Wholesome Moment of the Year. And the nominees are Pantoja and his family sharing the belt, Aspinall becoming champion and giving the belt to his dad, O'Malley dancing with a group of special people, and the Korean Zombie's send-off from the sport. Once again, there's absolutely no debate in my mind who takes this, and I'm sure everyone in the comments or everybody that's viewing this would agree with me. It's gotta be the Korean Zombie and his send-off from the fans in the crowd, Zombie crying in his wife's arms while the fans sing your theme song for your last fight ever. Nothing tops it. The Korean Zombie send-off wins Wholesome Moment of the Year. 2023 was probably the best year in the last almost decade for MMA memes. We had some real hitters this year. Let's get to my choices for Meme of the Year. Johnny Walker's Doctor Stoppage, Chama Alex Pereira, Ian Gary and his wife, and Yuri Prohaska's I'm Coming video. We started the year with Yuri sending this video to Jamal Hill, followed it up half the year later with the doctor stopping Johnny Walker's bout goofily, got Chama from Alex Pereira for Halloween, and ended the year with a banger of a meme in everything Ian Gary does. As much as I intrinsically want to go with Chama for the award, the amount of jokes that came from Johnny Walker's Doctor Stoppage takes Meme of the Year. Who's surprised that Johnny Walker was a part of this award? Congratulations to you, Johnny Walker. For the last two awards of the night, I saved the consensus best for last. First off, we've got the Fight of the Year award with the nominees being Brenner versus Kutateladze, Volkanovski versus Makhachev 1, Vergara versus Lacerda, and Rachmanov versus Neal. I've been picking my brain on this a lot. The pace, damage inflicted, and comeback at the end honestly has to take the cake for me, and it puts Brenner versus Kutateladze high on my list. But the sheer drama and stakes of Volk versus Islam 1 weighs just as heavily as a contender. It's almost 50-50 here, but since I have to lean towards one, your winner for Fight of the Year is Brenner versus Kutateladze for being 3 rounds of pure violence with a comeback at the end. Congratulations to all fighters involved. With this list, you all put on wars for our entertainment, and I couldn't be more grateful. And at last, we are at the final award of the night, the pinnacle for end of the year awards as a fighter, Fighter of the Year. We saw a lot of great fighters make strides towards legacy points in 2023. Even fighters outside of the UFC contended for the true Fighter of the Year. For the nominees, we've got Islam Makhachev, Patchy Mix, Francis Ngannou, and Sean Strickland. Islam went 2-0 with both wins coming over Volkanovski, one of which was a brutal head kick knockout. Patchy Mix both won and unified the bantamweight Bellator title against some of the best bantamweights in the world. Francis Ngannou went from being against the UFC and down on his odds, essentially, to beating the greatest boxer competing today in his first boxing fight ever. And finally, Sean Strickland went 3-0 in the UFC and capped off the year winning in the middleweight championship from one of the greatest in all time at middleweight for, honestly, an upset of the year. He even stayed relevant till the last month of the year with the seasonal press conference, getting into a brawl with DDP in the crowd. And when you compare all of these accomplishments, it just becomes clear that Sean Strickland is 2023's Fighter of the Year. I should be saying he's 4-0, honestly. Congratulations to Strickland on an awesome year. And he got a ref stoppage in the crowd. Crowd stoppage. Early first round crowd stoppage, 4-0. Just awesome year for Sean Strickland. Congratulations. 2023 was the start of my journey as a creator on the net, and it's shown me a lot of valuable lessons. Multiple videos of mine got thousands of views, and I couldn't be more grateful for all of your support. It's crazy to even say that out loud. I didn't think more than like 20 people would be ever watching my videos. So thank you so much. It feels good to put in work and see results, but ultimately I like connecting with the combat sports community, and that's really what I do this for. I started this channel after a rough 2022, to say the least. My girlfriend, Leilani J. Lake, passed away in a car accident at just 19 years old that year, and she was the most genuine soul you could ever encounter. When I would tell her about my dreams to be a fighter in the UFC and to run a channel about the sport, she would actually push me to take the steps to make my dream a reality. It took me the rest of the year after she passed to wake up and take action in my life, but this channel for me, it's the product of a promise I made to a soulmate that I'd chase my dreams till I'm dead and gone. And you'll be missed forever, Lele. So shout out to her for making a video like this possible. And shout out to all of you that stuck around to the end of the video. It means the world to me. Happy New Year to you all, and stay tuned in the channel. 2024 is going to be a big year. I'm going to build on everything I've built this year on this channel and make it all so much better. So have a good one. I love y'all. I'll catch y'all.